Hello once again and welcome to the Management Channel. In this section we're going to cover organizational culture. So our whole objective of this lesson is to examine the elements of organizational culture, compare the 4 strategies used for merging cultures, examine 4 strategies for strengthening an organization's culture as it is, and identify some strategies to improve the cultural process. So, what is an organizational culture? It's the values, the beliefs, and the assumptions about the appropriate behavior that members of an organization share. The culture defines the personality of the organization and how it functions. The elements are the basic pattern of shared values and assumptions shared within the organization, defining what's important and what is not unimportant. It's kind of like the company's DNA. It's invisible, but yet it's a powerful template that shapes employee behavior within the organization. There are 3 levels of culture: behavior, the actions and things people do and say; the values and beliefs, the way people believe they ought to behave; and assumptions, the values and beliefs ingrained to be normal accepted practice and somewhat difficult to change. So the shared assumptions are taken for granted perceptions or ideal prototypes of behavior only discovered by observing other employees once they're working there. Shared values are the values that people have in common and placed near the top of their values hierarchy. You need to focus on shared enacted values relied upon to guide decisions and employee behavior, not assumed values. Assumed values are values that want others to believe guide the organization's decisions and actions. Artifacts are observable symbols and signs of an organization's culture. So the culture profile. Models of culture content classify organizations' culture into a few categories popular with corporate leaders. The model identifies 7 corporate culture dimensions. First, innovation, and then stability of the organization, the respect for people, the outcome orientation, the attention to detail, team orientation, and the aggressiveness. So let's take a look at those. Innovation, experimenting, opportunity seeking, taking risks, few rules, and low cautiousness, wanting to try and make things better or make new products. Stability is the predictability, security, and rule-oriented aspect of the culture. Respect for people includes fairness, patience, and tolerance. The outcome orientation is the action-oriented, high expectations, and then the results-oriented. Attention to detail would be precise, analytical. Team orientation would be people-oriented and trying to incorporate collaboration and cohesiveness within the group. And aggressiveness, competitive, low emphasis on social responsibility. So dominant culture, the values and assumptions are shared most consistently and widely by the organization's members. A subculture are located throughout the organization, and they can enhance or oppose the firm's dominant culture, kind of like a counterculture. A counterculture are those cultures that operate within an organization that embraces values or assumptions that directly oppose the organization's dominant culture. In other words, working against you. And they do exist. 2 functions of countercultures. 1, provides surveillance and critical review of the dominant culture and maintain standards of ethical behavior. Source of emerging values to keep the firm aligned with the needs of the customer, suppliers, society, and other stakeholders. What are organizational rituals? The program routines of daily organizational life that dramatize the organization's culture. They're program routines of daily organizational life. For instance, how meetings are conducted, how visitors are greeted, how much employees take for lunch, are they allowed 10-minute breaks twice a day, etc. Organizational ceremonies are planned displays of organizational culture conducted specifically for the benefit of an audience. Ceremonies are more formal than rituals. They're planned activities conducted for an audience, like award ceremonies, celebrating a new product launch, or introducing a new upper management person. Organizational language can be confusing, especially to a new employee. Words used to address people, describe customers, etc. Leaders use phrases and special vocabulary, sometimes acronyms, as cultural symbols like Ford's Q1 or Quality First. Language also found in subcultures, slang or acronyms for department or company items. So, what exactly are organizational artifacts? The observable symbols and signs of a culture. Their physical structures, ceremonies, languages, stories about the past. They maintain and transmit the organization's culture, and cultures need many artifacts to accurately decipher their culture. So here we see the artifacts of organizational culture, and we're going to go through these a little bit more in depth. The artifacts are in four broad categories: organizational stories and legends, rituals and ceremonies, organizational language, and the physical structures and symbols. The building structure may shape and reflect culture, could be because of size, shape, location, or the age of the building. Office designs convey cultural meaning: furniture, office size, wall hangings, layout. Are you in squad bays or in cubicles? The strength of the culture exists when most employees understand and embrace the dominant values. Values and assumptions are institutionalized through well-established artifacts, and it makes it difficult to change the culture. Culture is generally long-lasting, often traced back to the founder. Some functions of strong corporate cultures. There are three functions to improve their effectiveness. 1. Control system. Influences employee decisions and behavior, kind of like a deeply embedded form of social control. Social glue is what bonds people together, or social identity. And sense making helps employees understand what is expected of them and helps increase their role clarity. Only a modest positive relationship between cultural strength and organizational effectiveness. You need to consider these contingencies. Ensure culture environment fit. Make sure it fits the organization. Ensuring the organization's culture content fits the external environment. Avoid corporate cult strength. Companies with very strong cultures are less effective than companies with moderately strong culture. Very strong cultures may lock people into mental models which can blind them to any new opportunities, so caution. Create an adaptive culture. Employees are receptive to change, have an external focus, recognize a need for continuous change and improvement. Support changing internal work processes, give the operator flexibility in their roles, and have a strong learning orientation. That is, experiment with new ideas, practices, suggestions from your employees, and view your mistakes as past learning. Now, if you have to merge an organizational culture, there are different types. One is adaptive culture. It's a culture in which employees are receptive to change, including the ongoing alignment of the organization to its environment and continuous improvement of all internal processes. Today, mergers are quite common between businesses, and when you do so, first you should perform a bicultural audit to minimize the risk of cultural collision by diagnosing the companies before you merge. 3 steps in this audit: identify cultural artifacts, analyze data for cultural conflict or compatibility, and identify strategies and action plans to bridge the gap between the cultures. There are 4 main strategies for merging different corporate cultures: assimilation, deculturation, integration, separation. So, assimilation is acquired company employees willing to embrace cultural values of the firm acquiring them. Typically, workers are happy about this when acquired company has a weak dysfunctional culture and the new company acquiring them is strong and aligned with the external environment. Deculturization. Acquiring firm imposes its culture and business practices upon the new firm. However, they may not be very willing. It's necessary when the acquired firm's culture doesn't work at all, though. So sometimes you have to put that change in motion. And employees acquired firm tend to resist this new culture. Integration is when you combine the two or more cultures into a new composite culture that preserves the best features of both or all cultures involved. It's a little slow and potentially risky at first. Many forces preserving the existing cultures will not want to change. It may work when companies have relatively weak cultures, or culture values overlap, or the employees are motivated to adopt to a new set of dominant values. Separation. Merged firms keep their own corporate cultures and practices and remain as distinct entities. Best when merging firms are in unrelated industries or definitely when they're in different countries. 4 main strategies are used: attracting, selecting, and socializing employees, actions of the founders and leaders, aligning artifacts, and introducing culturally consistent rewards. So, what is actions of founders and leaders? An organizational culture sometimes reflects the founder's personality, and this cultural imprint can be very powerful. For instance, Disney World. Transformational leaders can reshape culture using organizational change practices. Aligning artifacts. Artifacts keep the culture in place. Leaders can potentially adjust shared values and assumptions. For example, communicating organizational stories, creating some memorable events that symbolize the desired cultural values, transferring current employees who abide by the culture into new operations. Culturally consistent rewards, well, that's basically reward systems are power artifacts that strengthen or reshape the organization's culture. You reinforce behaviors that are consistent with the cultural values. Attracting, selecting, and socializing employees. Attracting and hiring people who already embrace your cultural values includes weeding out those people who don't fit the culture. And having organizational socialization practices. The attraction, selection, attrition theory states that the organizations have a natural tendency to attract, select, and retain people with values and personality characteristics that are consistent already with the organization's character or culture, resulting in a more homogeneous organization and a stronger culture. Attraction. Applicants engage in self-selection by avoiding employment in companies whose values seem to be incompatible with their own values. If you feel like a company is doing something that you don't agree with, you don't tend to go work for them. Selection. How well the person fits within the company's culture is often important in deciding which job applicant to hire. And a lot of times that's what they're doing. They're weighing out, will you fit in? Attrition. Employees quit or are forced out when their values oppose company values. Socialization. Process by which individuals learn the values, expected behaviors, and social knowledge within the organization necessary to assume their role in the organization. Psychological contract. Perception formed during recruitment and throughout the socialization process. It's the individual's beliefs about the terms and conditions of a reciprocal exchange agreement between the person and another party. Transactional contracts are primarily short-term economic exchanges or well-defined responsibilities. Relational contracts are more long term that include a broad range of mutual obligations. Stages of socialization, there are three of them. One, pre employment, encountered after they've been put into the workforce, and role management. So, in the pre employment stage, you're an outsider and you're gathering information, trying to form a psychological contract with the new job and new company. The encounter stage is you're a newcomer and you're testing your expectations as well as the organization is testing theirs. Role management, now you're an insider, you're changing your roles and behavior and resolving conflicts. Pre employment, all learning and adjustment before the first day of work, involves collecting information and forming that psychological contract, like I said. Encounter begins the first day in your new work environment, and newcomers test out how well their pre employment expectations fit reality. And then there's what's called reality shock stress that results when the employees perceive discrepancies between what they thought were the expectations and the on job reality. And that brings up an important note. When you're interviewing, make sure you tell the good and the bad. Don't just dolly it all up and make it sound real flowery. Let them know what the downsides are too. Role management. Most active as employees transition from newcomers to an insider. They strengthen their relationship with coworkers and supervisors. They practice new role behaviors and adopt attitudes and values consistent with their new position and within the organization. They resolve any conflicts between work and non work activities. So that does it for organizational culture, folks. I hope you learned something from this, and I hope you will continue watching us further. Thank you and have a great day.